So you finally got a sewing machine to start sewing, but now you need the tools to make it happen. Do I need separate scissors for cutting paper? Do I need sewing clips or a cutting mat? And if so, how big should it be? There's a lot of questions you might come across, and honestly, they're gonna be pretty tricky if you don't already sew.
But that's okay, because I got you covered. I got a bag here with everything you need. It is the basic tools and only the essentials, because while there's a lot of attachments and accessories that you can buy, you could also just buy them along the way. The first thing you're gonna need is something to mark your fabric, like chalk. It's meant to wash off, so you'll see it while you're constructing the garment and sewing, and then it'll actually disappear when you're ready to wear the clothes. For the most part, you'll see people using white chalk online, but it's hard to see against light colored fabrics. So they actually have chalk that's in multicolored now. So you have yellow, blue, red, and then now you could choose your colored chalk based on the color fabric you're working with. You might use it to draw out where you need to cut fabric, or maybe you'll use it to mark where you need to place fabric, like the rear pocket of these handmade jeans. This chalk is different from blackboard chalk, which tends to be more brittle and dusty. I find tailor's chalk to be almost like a waxy texture, so there's less dust everywhere as you're using it. And it comes in different shapes, different sizes, and different cases. You might have a triangle version, you might have the rectangle, the square, plastic case, cardboard case. They all essentially do the same job, so just take a chance on one, try it. If you don't like it, then you can try another shape the next time. And if you ever want to sharpen your sewing chalk, grab a pair of scissors, make sure they're your craft scissors, not your fabric shears, and open them up. Run the chalk edge through the middle of your scissors, or run the edge of the chalk against the edge of the blade on both sides, and that'll help you create a new sharp edge again. And if you're in the market trying to buy some chalk, 3 things to remember. 1, buy one with multiple colors so that you could see it against different colored fabrics. 2, don't buy in bulk. This stuff lasts pretty long, so you don't need like 12 or 16 pieces. And then lastly, buy one with a case. Something that'll protect it and just keep it tidy, because you're gonna be using it a lot, so you just want it to be kept nice and organized. And I rarely ever use just chalk alone. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, I'm using chalk with a ruler. Because we're cutting fabric here, you wanna draw straight lines, you wanna measure twice, cut once, you know, keep it clean. Now this is not your typical standard pencil case ruler. It's called an invisible ruler, or sometimes known as a transparent ruler. And it's made specifically for sewing. It makes it easy to measure, but also draw lines on your fabric. I find myself using a ruler a lot when the instructions of a sewing pattern, they ask me to make a 1/2 inch fold. So I'll usually measure twice that, so 1 inch, draw my straight line, and then I'll bring the fabric edge to that line, and now I've created a 1/2 inch fold. Some shopping advice, if you're in the market for a ruler, there are 3 things to keep in mind, and these are 3 things that I've learned from owning 3 different rulers. The first thing is you want to make sure it has metrics and inches. Metrics and imperial. That's what I meant to say. You want to make sure that it has metrics and imperial. My very first ruler, and you could tell it's my first ruler based on how faded this thing is, was only in imperial, which is fine because most sewing patterns are catered towards imperial, but it's nice to have metric in case you need that system for some kind of pattern or for yourself. And number 2, make sure the design of the ruler is printed internally, not externally. If it's printed externally like this ruler, it'll fade as you use it with time. This one actually faded so much that I had to draw in the measurement numbers. Versus this ruler, it's printed internally, so it doesn't matter how much you scratch away at the top, the design will never fade. That just means the ruler is going to last you longer. And the last tip, number 3, and this is a small detail, but I'm all about the details. So you look at the edge of the ruler, this one has like a bit of a buffer from where that line is, and I prefer a ruler that goes right up to the edge. So if I wanted to measure, for example, 3 inches from here, I can measure that and then I can mark the top. If I wanted to measure 3 inches from here, it's actually off by 1/8 of an inch. That's just something I noticed between these rulers. And if you are looking for a ruler, I do sell this glorious invisible ruler, and I designed it with those things in mind. Imperial, metric, no printed externally, and there's no 1/8 buffer on the edges. And another useful tool is measuring tape, and this is pretty standard in every toolkit, to be able to add dimension to your measurements so you can measure your body and reference that to the sewing patterns or the creations you make. When you're buying it, make sure it comes in imperial and metric,
and then it comes in 60 inches or 120 inches. I've used 60 inches my entire life, haven't needed more, and I've asked followers on IG. Everyone's picking 60 inches. The odd person picks 120, but you'll be pretty set with just 60 inches. Made specifically for cutting fabric, you need high quality steel in order to get sharp blades, and you need sharp blades to get a clean cut. Fabric shears or fabric scissors are very different from craft or kitchen scissors. If you try to use craft scissors on fabric, it barely cuts through, and even if it did, you'd probably tear the thread in the fabric a lot, and you wouldn't get those nice clean edges that you get with fabric scissors. They're made to cut fabric, so they're good at it. When you're using them, try to do long cuts, not short ones, and that'll help create straighter cuts. And then as a beginner, you might want to use fabric scissors to cut paper because you're going to be cutting paper patterns, but don't. It's not good for the scissors. Essentially, it'll just dull the blades a lot faster. So avoid using fabric scissors on paper. Have your craft scissors or your kitchen scissors for paper, and your fabric scissors for just fabric. If you find a pair of scissors you like, you're probably going to be faced with some sizing options. So the longer blades are going to be a little bit heavier, but they'll probably give you cleaner cuts, versus the smaller blades, they're going to be a lot lighter, so they're easier on your hand, and they'll give you more maneuverability. For beginners, I would probably recommend 8 to 9 inches, as that seems to be the most common standard size that'll give you both the benefits of a longer blade and a short blade. And then craft scissors. You need these for cutting paper, but you don't need to buy the highest brand, the good quality ones. Whatever scissors you have around the house, I'm sure will do just fine. So you're just cutting paper, so should be an easy job, hopefully, depending what scissors you have. I'm gonna be honest, no one likes this next tool, and for good reason. It's a seam ripper. Nobody likes this because anytime you gotta pull this out, it's because you made a mistake. You gotta undo some stitches. Every beginner needs one, and if you are in the market for one, buy one with a long handle. I find the short ones that have a tiny handle are just too tricky to use. I'd rather have more fingers and more hand to leverage. But a seam ripper, everyone should have one. And lastly, this is a thread snipper, and it's an optional tool. It's not essential, but it's worth noting. I probably didn't get my first pair until 3 years into sewing. You can get away with just using fabric shears to cut those loose threads, but I do think these are quite affordable, and it allows you to get really nice and close to those loose threads. So if you have the budget, get them, but they're not essential. So we went over tools to mark, measure, and cut your fabric. Now you want to sew it all together, but can't sew it together. It couldn't be done without sewing pins. So typically you'll match the edges of your fabric, pin it together with these sewing pins, and then sew. Some people like to pin them vertically, some pin horizontally, and sew all over the pins. That kind of worries me, so I'm more of a vertical pin guy, but there's technically like no right answer. I feel like everyone does different things and still achieves the same goal. For buying advice, I would say buy 100 pieces minimum. Might seem like a lot, but you might lose some over the years, and you might have some tied up in an old project while you start a new one. So 100 pieces minimum. And then between glass head or plastic, pretty much the same, except glass head is heat resistant, so it won't melt if it gets caught underneath the iron. And then between sharp pins or ballpoint pins, most of the time you'll probably be using sharp pins. The odd time you work with knit, that's where you want a ballpoint pin. It's a little bit more rounded at the pin's point, and that helps prevent tearing of the fabric when you pin through knit fabric. And then there's sewing clips. These are a personal favorite of mine. Ever since I discovered what these were, I use them all the time. In any case that I can use clips over pins, I'll always go with clips. So I have two colorways. I have the earth tone colorway and I have the retro colorway, and I put them in this little glass tray. And so basically you clip the fabric together instead of pinning together. And that means you don't have to work with sewing pins, which are very sharp. And the amount of times I've gotten pricked when I really wasn't expecting it, these are like a lifesaver. Like imagine using pins and dropping 1, 2, 3 in your carpet. It's almost impossible to find, and that sounds too risky. I don't want to step on pins. So I'm team clips over pins every day. Now, they do the same job. They both fix fabrics together, so why would you need both? Well, there are some fabrics like vinyl or leather where you can't use pins because it creates these holes that are unforgivable. They don't hide after. That's a situation where you need clips. Or there's situations where you can't reach inside the fabric because clips can only clip on the edges. So that's when you need pins. So you do need a combo of both, but anytime I could use clips, I'm using clips. I'm team clips for life. Now, if you made it this far, I'm assuming you've already explored which sewing machine you want, but if you haven't, my previous video of this Sewing 101 series, I recommended the Singer 4423 as the best machine for beginners. There are a lot of different accessories that can go with your sewing machine, and I think you'll kind of discover what you need after you start sewing and just facing those issues. But I think the most important one to get just off the bat are a set of ballpoint needles. Most machines will come with your universal needles, which is good for woven fabrics, but if you end up working with knit fabrics like fleece, then you're gonna want ballpoint because it has a bit more rounded of a tip, so it'll push through the fibers instead of tearing through them. So, another set of needles. Besides that, your machine should come with everything you need. And if you want to create professional looking stitches, the key is to press your seams. So you've marked your fabric, measured, cut, and fixed it together. You've sewn it together. The last step to close it all off is to press open your seams. When I first started sewing, I was using a home iron, and I definitely recommend that. It's a good starting point. Eventually you might want to upgrade. This is the Singer Steamcraft Plus. It's more powerful, it's hotter, so you'll get the job done with less work. And if you are working with a different iron, just make sure you have different temperature control. As you're working with different fabrics, you gotta adjust the temperature and make sure it has that steam feature. Those are all the tools you need to get started, but there are some alternatives that you might already own at home that you should consider. Like if you have bars of soap, you can cut them up into pieces and use this instead of chalk. Or if you have binder clips, use these instead of sewing clips. They're just a bit bigger and bulkier, but they do the same thing. Safety pins instead of sewing pins. There are a lot of alternatives you could use at home. Or if you're looking for just the bare essentials, I do have a beginner sewing tool kit which comes with all the sewing tools you'll need. That's in the link below, or stay tuned for the next Sewing 101 episode where I teach y'all how to use a sewing machine. And until next time,